I'm excited to talk to you about the stats and what's going on in your area. And I really want to know how you use these in your client consultations.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Financially Free Realtor. I'm James Mitchner, and this is Leslie Guy. Good morning, Leslie.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk to you about the stats and what's going on in your area. And I really want to know how you use these in your client consultations.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And this is something I send to my team once a month or twice a month because I feel like it's so impactful. When you convey this type of information to the buyer or the seller, they know that you know the market and that you're ahead of the rest. Mm-hmm. And especially in a changing market like we're in today, and the way you've outlined these stats, when you're comparing 2022 to 2021, mm-hmm. you can see that there's obviously a difference, right? Mm-hmm. And for instance, let's just look at the first one, the total listings of 2022 being 1,100 and in 2021 being 700. When you look at that, you know that there's more competition for the sellers out there to be able to sell their property, but the buyers have more of a choice, right? Mm-hmm. So you're counseling your buyer on how they can take the market to their advantage, or how the seller has to use these stats to their advantage to sell before the other listings that are on the market. Mm-hmm. So using these market stats has been something that's gotten me more listings than any other thing I've done besides promoting myself through the production that I've done in my career, right? So yesterday I got a listing with one of my team members, and after every single appointment, I asked the client, why did you choose to work with us, right? And he said, you knew the market better than anybody else did when it came to the stats. Your production was amazing. Mm-hmm. And the marketing plan, it's good. It's similar to what a lot of other people do, but you were upfront that you don't have any shiny object syndrome that's going to suck me into using you. You got the stuff that you need. But the main thing that he pointed out was the stats presentation, right? Why do we need to price the house where we need to price it? And what's the market looking like? There's been a lot of conversation about where the market's been, where it's going, and what the projections are going to be. But that's coming from like the news outlets, right? Mm-hmm. So
well, and they tell you they're national, and you really got to look at it local.
Exactly, 100%. And I tell people that all the time. And great point, Leslie. I appreciate you bringing that up. Is you have to make this local to what the market is in your area, right? If you say, oh, national housing prices are down XYZ, what's the number one question you get? Well, what's happening in Prescott, right? So if we know what's happening in our markets, then we're going to be that much more powerful of an agent to go in. The other two agents that interviewed against me didn't have the stats. They didn't bring a marketing plan, and they brought some like loose comps that they just printed off, right? Which is, and we'll get into that on how to present your marketing plan and whatnot, but this is a huge key piece to that to set yourself apart.
Right. I want to know, like, because if a seller looks and they say, okay, there's 1,115 listings on the market, there was 719. Okay, there's a lot more inventory. Like maybe this isn't a good time to sell. Yeah. What do you say to that?
So great question. I had that with the seller yesterday. We've been on the market for 10 days and we've had 2 showings. And he's like, maybe it's not the right time to sell. I'm like, well, what's your goal? Isn't your goal to be able to sell your property, buy a fifth wheel and travel around? Well, yeah. I'm like, then why don't we push for that and make that happen? One of the things that he had brought up is, well, the competition's just too much. We're not going to get the same price as we were before. I'm like, yeah, but we talked about that in the beginning of the appointment. We tried a little bit higher, but would you rather be catching a falling knife and have to stay in your house longer than you would want to, or not at all? Or would you rather take advantage of the market while it's still decent right now and there's not twice as many listings if you want to meet your goal of selling and getting to your preferred location and your preferred dream, right?
I like how you refocus them on what their goal is. That's really key.
People forget about that. They look at the money instead of their goal. They look at the money instead of their happiness. And you got to redirect them. Being a real estate agent is about sales, but it's also about being a counselor too. Right. I mean, 75% of it's being a counselor.
Right. And knowing how to talk to people. But can I tell you what I see when I look at this?
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you see.
So when I'm looking at this, I see, okay, listings are up, and I I'm thinking that 115% change, like I need to go back and double check that because it seems that's up a little bit more. Listings are up, but when I go down to the bottom of the chart and it says absorption, months of inventory, how long would it take to sell all of these listings at the rate of sales we have? And last year it would have taken 1.7 months. And this year it's going to take 3.2 months. What does 3.2 months of inventory mean? That is still a seller's market.
Absolutely.
That is a very, that's a seller, that's not even a balanced market. Until we get to like 5-6 months of inventory, it's not even a balanced market, and over 6 is a buyer's market. So 3.2 months, that's still not a lot of inventory. Sure, it's up, but it was just so low. The other thing there's two other things that really stand out to me here is that, if I look at the new listings coming on the market, there was 540 in July of 2022. There was 576 in 2021. So a few less listings coming on the market. So when some of these sell, like, is this number, the total, going to go up or down? I'd probably want to look at more months than this, but it looks like the number of new listings isn't increasing. It's actually lower. Now the listings under contract is lower. And that means to me that things really need to be priced right to go under contract.
Absolutely.
But if you look at the sale prices, and we have the median and we have the average sale price. Now, of course, median is that half the sales were above that, half the sales were below. And then average is just taking the total number of sales and the total sales volume and dividing it by that number. So, but if you look at that, 2022 is still higher than 2021. So are people getting more for their houses this year than last year? Yes.
Yeah.
So sale prices have still never been higher. So can a seller unrealistically pie in the sky price their house? No, they have to price it correctly. They need their agent to help them price it correctly, but it is still a good thing you did last year.
Yep. I was playing basketball with some of my buddies, and believe it or not, they all work with me when it comes to real estate, right? And we got into our second game, and one of my clients was next to me, who's on my team now. And I'm like, yeah, I just taught a class to all the agents on how to actually price a house in Sablewood, right? Because these stats came out. I knew what I needed to do to price it correctly. And at first he was super reluctant. Like, he did not want to price it where I wanted to, because the neighbor just one street over, same exact house, priced theirs 45,000 more than what I had listed for. And I said, Roy, we cannot do that. And here's the reasons why. We're going to have to drop the price over and over again. The most important time of the listing is the first 21 days of the listing. So we need to take advantage of it, right? Well, it took us 8 days. We got it under contract and we sold it for full price, right? The one down one street from them, same exact house, didn't even sell because they started too high, and the seller got listing fatigue, right? They were tired of dealing with it at that point. With one street forward, similar square footage, just on a 2-story, listed at 550, sold for 505. Whereas I got full price and 30,000 more than those other 2 houses, because I talked to my client and I was truthful with them, right? And there were times where they wanted me to list a lot higher, and I said no. Nope, I'm not doing it. You had to hold your ground. And what did I do? I used my stats. I used the market to my advantage, and I stuck to my guns with that. But it's because I knew these stats that I was able to do that.
And if you look at them every month, now this is just a simple year-over-year comparison for a social media graphic. But if you're looking at them every month and you can see, are there more listings coming on the market? If there's a lot more listings coming on the market each month, then you have to be even more aggressive in your pricing, right?
Yep.
So it's really watching these to know what market you're in, watching the months of inventory, watching what your median days on market. Here it is 25, where last year it was 11. So it's taking, twice as long to sell right now. And so you have to prepare your seller and set those expectations. It's not going to sell in a hot minute.
Yeah.
The median days on market is 25. We have to give it at least a month.
Yeah. And it goes to, like, if you play basketball, right, and you play once a month or once every 2 months, your endurance sucks, right? So the endurance of a seller at this point sucks. Like, they're not ready to go. They're not ready to go 2 months. They're not ready to go 30 days even, right? But if you
have to set those expectations, because look, they're going to get more for their house than they've ever been able to before, but it's going to take a little time, and they still have to price it realistically.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So you want to make sure that you're having that conversation up front. You want to make sure you know your stats. And here's the thing. I've been doing this a while, going on 9 years. And so I can look at them real quick, and I know what I need to present, right? But if you're a newer agent, you may have to look at this for 30 minutes and really take it down and bring it with you as a printed version, which was what my team members do. And I'll do too, if it's something I'm just not grasping for some reason, but I know how to articulate what's happening in the market so that the client understands it. And again, you could 15 minutes before your appointment, you pull it up on your phone, you look at it, you're like, okay, I got XYZ, this is what I need to present on. And that little bit of time that you spent will get you the listing and will get you your client's household and make them happy. Yep.
And you can pull these, this is just an all MLS. You can pull them city by city or even subdivision by subdivision if you know how to do it in the MLS. And that's just taking an MLS class to know how to run those reports.
Yeah. And I'm glad you presented this today, because I think it's one of the most important things that we can do as an agent is know our market, right? Knowing the national market's fine, I guess, if you're like a national investor, but when you're a real estate agent or you're a local investor in your market, you need to know these stats, especially if you're a fix and flipper, right? You need to know what these are, or you loan hard money like I do as well. You need to know what these are. How long is my money going to be out there? What's the chance of them getting X price compared to what the market's showing, right? How am I going to get my money back? If I have to foreclose on that, is it a good deal for me, right?
Well, and more importantly, what's the appropriate amount to buy at?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you don't buy it at the right price and you're an investor or a wholesaler, you're not buying at the right price, that's the kicker.
Yeah. And like I always say, you make money on the buy, not on the sell, right?
Right. So how would you look at these and talk to a buyer about this? A buyer saying, oh, there's so much inventory. Is it the time to buy?
I would say absolutely it's the time to buy, right? The first question I have is when they say, oh, is it the time to buy? I say, how long do you plan on being in the house? Like,
exactly.
10 to 15 years. I'm like, perfect. Then in 10 to 15 years, the market's going to change. At least you're not in a rental where the landlord could sell it out from under you, because I've seen that happen so many times. The interest rates are at, 5.5% right now, but you might be able to refinance down the line. But historically, interest rates have been at 7.2, 7.3%, right? So
right.
5.5%.
Right. Not so long ago, we were really excited to be in the fives.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all perspective, right? So what I tell the buyer is, if you're going to plan to stay in that house for 10 years, buy the house, build the roots for your family, because that's going to change. And I've had so many of my friends and my clients say, man, after I bought my house, like, our family feels so much more secure. We feel so much more stable. It just changes you to know that you have your own place, and to know that your family is going to be safe and not uprooted. I've seen it happen way too many times. So and I would talk to the buyer about being a little bit more aggressive on their offer price, and that we need to look at every single house that they actually like and discuss what that offer should be, because maybe the seller's priced correctly, right? And they have multiple people that are looking at it. So we need to go in aggressively. I'm still getting some multiple offers on properties. It's just not every single one.
Right.
And then, so you just have to know the market so you can guide your buyer, you can guide your seller in the right direction. Not only does it come to your sales stats, like what we have here, but what are the interest rates at, right? What's happening on a global level that could shift that? Because if somebody says, I'm going to wait like 3 or 4, 5, 6 months, right? My opinion is I think in 6 months we're going to be in a worse spot than we are now. That's just
interest rates aren't going down.
No,
they're projected to go up for the rest of the year. So
yeah, there's a lot of things happening. So if you like the house, you like the area, and you're okay with the payment, then go for it, right? But don't be house poor, and pick the house that you really want. And we'll work to where you're hopefully not going to feel like you overpaid for it, right? But at the end of the day, they're the decision maker. I'm the guider, and I have the information that they don't have. They could get it off of Zillow and Realtor.com, but that's to analyze all that stuff. It's like trading your own stocks. Like, there's professionals in that as well. So our job is to use these stats to help our buyers and our sellers get to the right destination and hit their goal of what they want to do. So,
Right. And I think that's the key right now. It's all about client education to know
yeah,
if, who has the right time to buy. If you are going to be in the house for 5 to 7 years or more, then buy, because it's going to be less now than it will be then. And your rates are better now than they will be in the next 6 months or a year. If you're
exactly.
selling and you have something you want to get to, now's still a great time to sell, because you're still going to sell at a higher rate than you were last year. And, the last 2 years have been, the best increase in recent history for all of real estate. So it's still
Yeah.
a good time depending on what your goals are. So
One other thing I want to throw in there real quick is that conversation I had with the seller the other day. He had bought the house for, I think, like 240, right? And now it's up to 550. I'm like, just think about the equity that you built up just naturally through not having to do all the renovations and everything. You're basically playing with house money. So take that chunk off the table. You can't spend your equity, but you can spend what after you sell the house. So equity's great, but look at how awesome it is that you bought a house at a really good price and you're going to sell it for $300,000 more, right? So look at the end goal and what has been given to you just through the natural progression of the market.
And was that seller single or married?
Married. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because the other thing that to pay attention to is that people are running up against their maximum to avoid capital gains, so they can have 250 in equity, and there's no extra tax on it if they're single, or 500 if married. If they've got that much equity in their home, it might be time to sell and take that equity, put it in a new house, and start building that all over again.
Yeah, and not to get off on a rabbit hole, but the government's looked at changing that too, maybe going at 3 out of 5 years, 5 out of 7 years. So if you want that, that's such a huge momentum changer in your financial life, in your life, if you can take that cash out and go do something that you're not deploying it back into, right? But you're basically paying, even if you're going to sell your house and get another one, maybe you're downsizing or maybe you're upgrading, you're playing with house money at that point, right? So it's just been given to you through the natural progression of what the market does when it goes up and down. So
talk to the professional, get it assessed in the right way, and based on your goals, it still may be time to move forward.
Yep, absolutely. So
all right. Well, good chat, James.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics, and I do it with my team all the time. So I really appreciate you bringing that up and showing us what we need to do for that.
Fantastic. We will watch and see what happens in August, and we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.